Hi, this is Swapnil Bhartiya. We are here at KubeCon and CloudNativeCon in Barcelona, Spain. And today we have with us Gareth Rushgrove. You are Director of Product Management at Snyk. I love the name Snyk because they have played with the spelling. It's like S-N-Y-K or something like that?
Yeah, S-N-Y-K.
So what does Snyk do before we get into why you joined and all those things? First, I want to know what do they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the quick version is it's application security for developers. And developers have become a bigger part of, like, I guess, not just buying software, but using it. Developers are taking over the world. And security tools have often been built for people at a distance. What Snyk does, and the shortest version, is connect your GitHub repository to our service. We'll scan all of the packages, the open source dependencies you have, tell you have vulnerabilities, but we'll send you a pull request to fix them.
And that also explained that, why you moved, because you took a break and then so tell me about your evolution now, because then I can easily connect why you joined Snyk.
Yeah, and so most recently I was working at Docker, before that Puppet. Before that I was outside the sort of software vendor side. I worked for the UK government. While I was there, I did a whole bunch of work around automation and in particular information security. So I'd had this interest in security. I'd had this interest in, I guess, open source, as both as a contributor, but as a ecosystem market as well. And Snyk is sort of all of those things. I'm developer focused, like we're helping the open source community at the same time as like building a business around software and like the security angle as well. It's just an exciting company to be around, I think.
How serious is this a problem in today's world, where most of the workload is kind of moving toward the cloud native world?
Yeah, but I guess the nature of software there is becoming higher level, and that's been the pattern for 20 odd years. I mean, cloud is sort of a part of that, but to start with, programming was machine language and assembly. We've built in higher level languages. Increasingly, like rapid software looks like you're integrating cloud services. You're still ultimately writing software. One of the things that's changed there, though, is historically you might have wrote most, if not all, of your actual application, and down to the hardware and firmware even at the start. But then you started building on top of operating systems. You started building on top of libraries. So a modern application developer invariably doesn't start with nothing. They start with a framework. They start with a load of dependencies. It's really the proverbial iceberg. They're writing now 2%, 3%, 4% of their actual application code and bringing in all of this other code. That code can have vulnerabilities just like the code you wrote, but you don't see it, it's hidden. It's not hidden from the attacker. They will use that to exploit your system, and we help you fix that problem. And not just know about it. We don't just give you a list of CVEs in that transitive dependency. We'll actually give you a pull request to fix it. So it's about making that visible, like all of that code you're running that could be vulnerable, that could affect you, and making the fix actionable and fast. I guess a recent example was the struts framework, that vulnerability that led to lots of compromised, very large compromises. That's in a dependency that the companies using that didn't write it, but it's incredibly widely deployed. Another good example that Snyk was actually actively involved in was the zip slip vulnerability. So, and everyone's using zip files and tar files and compressed file systems. Well, actually, there's been a well-known vulnerability in basically the algorithms used for that in the academic community for a long time. Turned out that actually the Snyk security research team found that vulnerability in a really popular Java library that was actually everywhere. The number of CVs that came out from that one discovery was huge, and the number of people that were affected was into the tens or hundreds of thousands.
Right.
And just, dependencies. We all just use source code from the internet. The open source is an incredible empowerer of us building high-level tools, but we need to be careful of all the things under the hood.
So do you think it's more of less a technology problem or people's problem? Because it's also about a lot of mindset, how you look at, if you talk about vulnerabilities, they are there also. Even if there is patch there, nobody is, So what do you think is the real problem?
All security problems are technical in people. It's a complex socio-technical system, and anyone telling you it's just a technology problem and you can solve it with there, or if it's just a people problem you can solve it there, is I'm not going to be able to keep up. I think what we're doing is saying, yes, we have a tool, we have a technical solution there, but it's also helping you shift some of that technical security burden to your development teams. Again, and in large organizations, the ratios are often quoted as you might have 100 developers, you might have sort of 10 operations people, and you might have one security person. The reality there is you can't have the security person as the bottleneck. You have to involve the development teams if you're going to be able to keep up with the rate of both software change, the deployments you're now making, but also the sort of security space.
Right. And what kind of trend are you seeing in the market that are people becoming more and more aware of it, or?
Yeah, I think security is increasingly visible, and not just to developers, but at a board level. It's easy to go through the news and find large public companies having to make large-scale disclosures. With things like the GDPR regulations in Europe, the fines now for some types of breaches are meaningful, and I think that's maybe been something that's not been there before. The Equifax incidents in the US, the sort of senior management visibility is there. I think also something that's near and dear to the sort of cloud native community's heart is a lot of things are shifting left. We're pushing things that were historically someone else's problem down to self-contained teams, down to development teams, in order to go faster. We can go fast. We need to be secure at the same time. We need security tools that live in that world. So yeah, I think it's definitely the direction of travel.
Gareth, once again, thanks for talking to us today.
Yeah, thanks.
And since you never left the game, but since you're back in the game, so I'll be seeing you more again.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot.